Stephanie Lewis, take it away.
All right, thanks so much, Mr. Alderson. Like he said, I'm Stephanie Lewis. I'm one of the counselors here at the high school. If you or your student happens to have a last name SMJ through Z, then I am your counselor. However, I am going to be taking all of you through the Running Start information this evening. So this is just a brief overview of kind of the big ticket items I'm going to cover tonight. We're going to talk about who's eligible for Running Start, kind of the profile of a student that is usually successful at Running Start, the application and registration process. Also going to talk about just some housekeeping stuff and how doing Running Start actually works with our classes here at the high school, some timelines, just give you a really big overview picture of what the program looks like. As Mr. Alderson introduced, we have two representatives from EVCC here to help share just some additional information, as they are the college we primarily partner with for the Running Start program. And then we'll have some time for Q&A at the end. So who's eligible for Running Start? Typically, these are juniors and seniors. The big point is that students must have earned at least 12 credits. So that makes you a junior standing. You've got to earn at least 12 credits to be eligible to participate in the Running Start program. That's just participation overall. Then there is some placement requirements for both math and English. So if you have a current cumulative GPA of 2.5 or higher, that'll automatically place your student into English 101. And then math placement's determined on what coursework your students completed, if they've done Algebra 2 or higher. Algebra 2 is not actually a college level class. So while students can take that class through EVCC, we typically recommend they take the Algebra 2 at the high school. If students can't place into math or English, there is an option to take the AccuPlacer exam. It is $33 last I checked, but I will say we have very few students doing that anymore. Most students use their transcripts or their current classes. So how to get started? The first thing that you can do is just FYI, we're going to be posting both this video and this slide deck as a separate piece that you can actually go in and click through probably tomorrow. On our Lake Stevens High School planning guide, there's a Running Start section on there. So when you go in there, if you go in there tomorrow, anything that's blue, these are all links that you can click on. So you don't have to hunt stuff up yourself. I've linked almost everything you need to in here. So if you're ready to get going on Running Start, your student can Google EVCC Running Start, or they can click this link, how to apply to EVCC Running Start. EVCC actually has their own slideshow all built for you, which really, if you follow along nicely, it takes you step by step of how students can apply to Running Start. There's, you have to create an application account, and then you get a CTC link account, and then you actually sign up and register. So it's kind of two steps, applying and registering. Now, if you're a student who has done college and the high school this year, you already have an EVCC account, you've got a CTC link ID. In this slideshow that I've linked in here, EVCC slideshow, you can actually skip to slide 7. That's the step that you'll start at. You don't have to start at the start. But yes, EVCC has a lovely slideshow on step-by-step to walk you through how to do that. Once you do that initial application piece, it takes about 7 to 10 days for EVCC to process your application. So just so you know, there is a little bit of a waiting period. We can't do it all in one day. So that comes the second piece. I said it was 2 pieces, apply and then register. Congratulations, you've been accepted. Your students will receive an email. Side note, do please have your students register with a personal email address. Our Lake Stevens High School firewalls will block EVCC communication. It's a bummer, but it just is what it is. So do please remind your students, register with a personal email address. So they're going to get an email that says, congratulations, you've been accepted. Here's your CTC link ID. Log in, and these are the steps that you need to do next. You have to complete the placement process, which means obtaining a transcript from your high school counselor, so your students can email their counselor for those transcripts, and they have to attach it to a placement form, fill that out, send that back to EVCC. New this year, there is a online orientation for Running Start students. That's optional. I think it's still really valuable and probably helpful for students to do, but that's not required. Again, all this stuff will be outlined step by step in that email your student is going to get from EVCC. So once you walk through the steps in the EVCC email, you're now registered as a Running Start student. You've done the orientation if you want to do that. Your student has sent in the placement form. Now it's time to meet with your high school counselor and figure out what are the classes that I'm going to take. Am I going to keep classes at the high school? Am I going to take them all at EVCC? What's that going to look like? And answer any questions that you have. One of the things that we'll do every single quarter is fill out what's called a running start enrollment verification form. So once a student emails me and says, Miss Lewis, I've turned in my placement form, I've got my accepted letter, what do I do next? I send a nice big email that says, congratulations, happy you got accepted. Here's a copy of your transcript for that placement form. Here is the Running Start Student Agreement, which I've linked in here for y'all. That is something that the student needs to take home and read through with a caregiver. There's lots of places to initial. It goes through a lot of rules and just important things to remember as a Running Start student. So the student and parent do need to sit down, read through that carefully, and sign it. Then they need to print out the Running Start enrollment verification form, fill out the top portion only. It's just their information, and they need to set up a meeting with me. And in that email, I will include a link for students to sign up for a meeting with me right there on my calendar. They can pick a time that works good for them. I do really encourage parents to join on that first meeting only. Let's make sure everything in the Running Start student agreement makes sense. Make sure you feel comfortable with all the things your student is going to be responsible for doing and that all of your questions are answered. I will meet with your students every single quarter, sign the enrollment verification form, and talk about classes. I don't need a parent to come to every one of those meetings, but I do think it's valuable for a parent or guardian to come with that first meeting just to make sure all of your questions are answered and you feel comfortable. They will, and then your students will still have to complete entry advising with EVCC. So that is still one more step they have to do with them. So there's some steps they've got to complete with me and steps they got to complete with EVCC. And then finally, the last thing students will have to do is when they meet with me, I'm going to finish filling out that Running Start enrollment verification form. I'm going to sign it. Your student actually has to turn that into EVCC. They can do that in person. They can do that via email. But I don't turn that in for the student. Your student needs to give that to them themselves. So your counselors, I am the counselor in charge of Running Start. I do this webinar. I oversee the program. But you will meet with your student's individual counselor to go through all these steps that I've just outlined. All 6 of us are equally knowledgeable about the Running Start program. We can all answer all the questions, and we'll all meet with you, and we're all happy to help you. So just so you know, if you're not sure who your student's counselor is, here's this information. I'll leave it up for just a brief minute. Remember, I will post this later so you can refer back to it. There is 6 of us this year. We're really fortunate to have that. So if you've had a student come through this program before, you may have a different counselor now. But this is the 6 of us. All right, so this is that Running Start student agreement that I talked about. It's a couple pages long. Like I mentioned, it's going to go through a lot of rules, some things I can highlight, just see on here, you know, what does parking look like? What does it mean to be off campus? What does it mean if you take a course that's under 100 level, which is not a college level course? Covers a lot of really important bullet points that we want to make sure both parents and students understand. There's also a page on the back for you to jot down any questions or concerns you have. So as you're going through this packet, if something's not making sense, write it down so that when you come to that meeting with me, you remember all your questions and I'm able to get them answered and cleared up for you. Just so students know, counselors will not sign their Running Start enrollment verification form. That's the form that they have to turn in order to register for classes. We won't sign that unless this student agreement has been filled out, signed, and completed. And students only have to do this right now at the start of the program. They don't have to do this piece every quarter. So this is what the Running Start enrollment verification form looks like. This is the RSEVF. Me and your student will be filling this out every single quarter before they register for classes. I said earlier, I want them to fill out that top portion when they come to that first meeting with me. That's the portion that I've circled here in the orange. And so we'll do this right now as we prep for fall. Then in November, we'll do this again as we prep for winter quarter. And then in early February, we'll do this again as we prep for the spring. So I do still have constant contact with your student, helping to make sure they're being smart about the courses that they're picking and being thoughtful. I will also include something called a Running Start equivalency chart. Because a lot of times in these meetings, I'm going to tell a student, hey, I think you should take your English and a math and a science. And they'll say, well, Miss Lewis, what classes can I take that count for science? Well, this chart is going to tell you what classes they can take. And we're going to look at that a little deeper in a minute here. But this is the form this is the important form. Students will have a block on their account until this form is turned in. It needs to be signed by me, it needs to be signed by you, and the student has to get it to EVCC. So this is the Running Start equivalency form. So there's both credit information, course equivalency information, and a little bit of a timeline breakdown there at the bottom. So there's a lot of just helpful at-a-glance information on this form. One thing that I'm going to draw your attention to, actually, I'm going to back up just really quick. Most of these classes, you'll notice a 5-credit class at EVCC, which is pretty standard for the most part. That's going to be the same as a 1-credit class here at the high school. So they're only going to take that class for 3 or 4 months, but they're going to earn a full credit, and then they're going to be done with that class, and then they're going to start a whole new class. That's one of the things my students, I think, really like about Running Start, is that their classes are constantly changing. For the most part, it's pretty easy. You need an English credit, take 1 English class. You need a science credit, take 1 science class. The differences lies in the history classes. So high school graduation requirements they're very specific in what curriculum needs to be covered and what needs to be in that. And it doesn't necessarily mash up with college course requirements. So with that being said, juniors I want to draw your attention to the orange box. Juniors need to take 2 U.S. history classes to meet their U.S. history requirement, which is a high school graduation requirement. The classes are listed here, 146, 147, 148. So they will take 2 of those 3 classes. They will still earn 2 credits. What's going to happen is the first time your student takes history 146, they complete it. We're going to give them a 0.5 of a U.S. history credit and then 0.5 of an elective credit. So they're still going to get that full credit. It's just where that lies is going to be spread out, and that's why they have to take 2. When they get to senior year, that's going to be highlighted in the yellow. It's 2 different boxes for that one. They need to pick 1 from the civics category and 1 from the CWI category. And then the last little just discrepancy here is with our PE classes, we will round up on those. So if a student is taking a 0.4 active PE class, it does have to be active, through EVCC, we will round up to a 0.4 credit for them. So that's like a 2-credit class at EVCC. That would only equal a 0.4. We'll round that up to a 0.5 to a semester-long class. Otherwise, it just gets a little messy. So the other thing that I kind of want to draw your attention to first on the left-hand side of your screen here is how our high school semesters and EVCC's quarters don't line up. So if a student is taking some classes on campus at LSHS and some classes at EVCC, they're considered a part-time Running Start student, some of each. What you'll notice is our first semester will end in the middle of their winter quarter. And the same thing, our second semester will end in the middle of their winter quarter. So our timelines don't match up. So what that means is once students start a class at Lake Stevens High School, they're in that class for the year. We can't then shift that in winter quarter to move it to a different time of the day to accommodate your students' new EVCC classes winter quarter. So students that are keeping classes on campus need to be really thoughtful about what time of day they take their classes at LSHS, because once the year starts, those are set in stone and we're not moving those around. Most of the time, it works out to be like first and second period if you're going to keep a class on campus, or sometimes 5th and 6th if you're a student athlete who needs to be here at the end of the day anyways. Application deadlines. Priority application deadline for EVCC for fall quarter is April 30th. And those classes are going to start mid-September. Heather and Artie can correct me if I'm wrong. These dates, the winter and spring dates might be a little off. I didn't see updated dates for next year yet on their website, but last year it was October 11th and February 12th. So it's going to be right around there. The winter deadline is going to be October. The spring deadline is going to be February. These are just new applications. It is very rare that we start Running Start mid-year. So that's why I've actually made those dates smaller. Is most of the time we don't use those. So that's a little FYI, but probably not something that we're going to have to worry about too much. All right, so to graduate high school, I actually met with a lot of sophomores today, and they said, well, how does that work if I if I take classes at the college, but I still haven't graduated high school, how am I going to meet all my high school requirements? Well, yep, you got to earn 24 credits to graduate high school. But the cool thing is when you're doing Running Start, you're getting dual credit. So you're getting credit for both college, and we're going to give you credit for that at the high school. So it's a really good bang for your buck. We do have this handy little graduation checklist available on our website if you're someone that wants to like write in your classes and see where you're at. Students can also use their GradRex table in Skyward to see what classes do they have remaining, what classes have they taken, etc. I will also be going over that information with your student every single quarter before we sign the RSEVF. So we're going to be having these conversations a lot. Running Start students actually end up knowing a lot more about their GradRex than the average like Stevens High School student because we're having this conversation 3 and 4 times a year instead of just once at registration. So again, that look at our semesters and our quarters at EVCC. So a full-time high school student, just sort of like some perspective, a full-time high school student takes 6 classes. They earn 6 credits in a year here at Lake Stevens High School for the most part. A full-time student at EVCC is typically could be taking 3 classes each quarter at EVCC. So they actually have the opportunity to earn 9 credits. So students can earn their credits a bit faster. This is also why some students are still able to knock out high school graduation requirements and still earn an AA degree by the time they graduate. It's because they've maxed out that number of credits. Some of them overlap and some of them don't. And also, we've been really fortunate the last few years. Running Start has up to the FTE or the number of credits they'll pay for in layman's terms. And so we're often able to expand Running Start to also cover summer quarter. So that has really made the AA degree more accessible than ever to high school students who really want to pursue that. If your student is wanting to explore part-time, so keeping some classes at the high school, some classes at the college, this chart on the right here is kind of going to give you a general breakdown of what it looks like. So typically we say however many classes you take at the college, you're going to start decreasing the number of classes you're eligible for. Or I'm sorry, I said that backwards. The number of classes you're taking at the high school is going to start decreasing the number of college credits that you're eligible for at the college. So if a student is taking 0 to 1 classes at the high school, they can take 3 college classes. That's full time. If a student is taking, say, 4 classes at the high school, they may only be able to take 1 or 2 per quarter. Also depending on logistics of the timings of the classes. So I'm not going to go into this too much because we could come up with 1,001 what-if examples of what a schedule at EVCC and the high school could look like. But here's an example of a student who is doing a full-time schedule of Running Start classes. So in the fall, they'll take their English, one of their histories, and their math class. And then you'll notice that student's done with English and math for the year. They've earned their full 1.0. They don't actually need any more math. So then in the winter quarter, they'll take their Spanish 1, their second history class, because remember the history is the hiccup. And then they're going to take their science and knock that out, and then they'll be done. And then spring quarter, maybe they'll finish with their Spanish 2, and then take a film class and a graphing class, it looks like. So that student is taking 9 different classes. They have way more variety in their schedule than a student at Lake Stevens High School, and all 3 of their classes change throughout the year. I would say this is the biggest draw for most of my Running Start students. They love this schedule. It just allows for more flexibility. If they're in a class they really don't like, they're not stuck in it for a long time or a subject that's harder for them. So they have the grit to push through it because the amount of time they got to spend in there is a little shorter. And they have more choice. EVCC just plain has a wider course selection of classes to take and choose from than we as a high school do. So that's kind of some of the pros, some of the really neat things about Running Start. This is a sample of what a part-time schedule could look like. And remember, the word part-time just means you're doing both. So this student decided, you know what, I'm not super strong in my math and history. For one, I'm in Algebra 2. That's not a college level class. So while I could take it at the college, I would have to pay tuition for that. Running Start's not going to cover it. So you know what, I'm going to keep that at the high school like Miss Lewis suggested. And you know what, I think I'm going to keep my chemistry at the high school too, because those are just kind of tough subjects for me. And I like having, you know, my high school teacher with me. So they've got 2 classes here with us on campus, probably first and second period. And then in the afternoon, during fall quarter only, they're going to be doing their English and their U.S. history. And then those classes are going to end. And then in the winter quarter, they'll be doing their Spanish and their other U.S. history, all while still doing the math and the science at Lake Stevens. And then spring quarter, they'll move into Spanish and film. So they still have some classes on campus. They're still connected to the Lake Stevens High School community, which is still really important for a lot of our students, but they still have way more flexibility in their schedule. At any given day, they're only taking 4 classes at a time, but yet they're still able to move through 8 classes throughout the whole school year and earn 8 credits. So it adds a lot of flexibility to a system that otherwise is pretty rigid. So again, I think this is one of the things that our Running Start students like the best is the flexibility. Summer Running Start. I mentioned earlier that in our recent years, we've been really fortunate that the state has opened up funding to cover more credits so that students can access Running Start over the summer, which is amazing. At most, students are eligible for up to 10 credits. So actually any rising juniors are eligible for that 10 credits because it's based on this year, and rising juniors are sophomores right now. They haven't been eligible for any credits. So if you have a student who's ready to hit the ground running and do some Running Start classes this summer, they can do that. Rising seniors can also do it. And some current seniors, so students who may or may not be graduating, could also potentially be eligible for some Running Start summer credits. It is based on, I don't want to get too lost in the weeds. It's based on the number of credits that students take throughout the school year. That's why as rising juniors, they're eligible for the 10 because they haven't taken any. If your student maxes out and takes every last credit they can during the school year, they might not be eligible for summer Running Start, but it is very rare that a student's not. The amount of credits they've maxed out is so wide that most students can take at least 1 or 2 credits over the summer if they want to. So that's really, really cool. I'm really happy with that. I also think it helps our ORCA program a lot already. When those students have those electives they weren't quite able to get done in time, well, now if they can't squeeze it in during the school year, hey, you can take one of those over the summer. And so that really has opened the door to make ORCA more accessible to more students, which I think is awesome. The one thing to know is that EVCC hasn't finalized all their updates on summer for this year yet. It just takes them a little bit. They do usually have that up by early March, but these are the things we anticipate to be the same. And it's always been a different RSEVF form. So again, they need that RSEVF form submitted in order for them to sign up for classes. So if your student wants to do that, just make sure they let me know and we'll get both forms signed at the same time. A couple of big important things to know. Communication with Lake Stevens High School is key, both you as parents and as a student. I don't have access to view your students' Running Start grades through Skyward when they are at EVCC. I don't know what their grades are and how they're doing until those grades post at the end of the year. So you need to be talking to your student. Please, it's easy for them to hide and withdraw from classes without telling us, or be failing and just not show up. You're not getting the same level of communication from the college you are from the high school. So please talk to your students and make sure they're communicating with you and they're letting you know what's going on. If they're struggling, we can fix that, but I can't fix a problem I don't know is happening. So please, please, please just encourage your student to be talking to me. Join the Running Start Google Classroom. I will push out notifications that way. Your students can join that. Unfortunately, parents can't. Our firewalls doesn't let it work. And then encourage them. They need to still be checking their Lake Stevens High School email address at least once a week. They need to be scanning for any emails from their counselor or anything from the Running Start Google Classroom. Those are really important. All right, I'm gonna give my voice a break and let Heather tell you a little bit about the EVCC perspective.
Thank you, Stephanie. Again, I'm Heather Hill. I'm the Director for High School Partnerships at Everett Community College, which includes Running Start College in the high school and CTE dual credit. Just to kind of follow up on a few things that Stephanie had said, our fall application, the priority date is April 30th, but we will be accepting applications through September 8th. Earlier, the better. You want to get it early, but we will accept. Sometimes, things happen throughout the summer. We will continue to accept applications. And our summer, the page is mostly updated. We are waiting on our summer RSEVF from the state. All of our summer updates are dependent on state and legislative changes. So currently we have what is available. If any changes happen, we will definitely get that updated. But back to the regular scheduled program here. completing Running Start or participating in Running Start, you are beginning a college transcript. So you're not only earning your high school credit, but you are starting that college transcript. So it's important to be mindful of the classes, your study time, and really your time management to make sure you are successful in those classes. These classes will follow you to EVCC or other colleges or universities that you plan on attending. Running Start also, it is the student's responsibility. That means the RSCVF, registration, the application process, communicating if you are struggling or need resources. We do send out many different types of emails with ways to participate in the college community, ways to find resources that we have, important dates. So please check your email. But if you're struggling or just have a question, please reach out to us or your high school counselor so that we can help you be successful. As you are starting a college transcript in your college career, college communications again will be to your email mostly. We do send out texts as well, but most email communication is through email. So that personal email is important so that we know that it's getting to you. Like Stephanie said, many firewalls at high schools are not allowing our communications through. And along the line of communication, for college, there is a Federal Education Rights and Privacy Act, or also known as FERPA, and that protects the student's data. So that's grades, registration, application, student ID number. All of that is the right of the student. So that stays with the student. So moms, dads, grandmas, guardian, whoever is calling about the student record, we will not be able to release information. So as a Running Start student, it is very important that you do share important information with your parent, guardian, whoever is helping you so that they are able to walk with you through this journey because the college will not be able to provide that information. We do have a FERPA release form that you as the student can sign and say, hey, I'd like my parent to be able to help me with these particular subjects. And those are great to have on hand so that if you do need some help, parents, guardians can call or email, and we can assist without having to say, sorry, we can't help at this time, because we really do want to be able to help where we need to. As Stephanie said, as you're earning your high school diploma requirements, you could also be earning just classes towards an associate's degree or actually earn an associate's degree. So you're saving time, money, and with a purpose of just either having some college credit when you graduate from high school or earning an associate's degree. But it is important that the goal is to graduate from high school while earning college credit, not vice versa. So it is important that is our goal to make sure you're taking the right classes. And last but not least, Running Start and taking college classes, it's a challenge, but it's definitely possible. The RSCVF, making sure your schedule is matching up with your high school schedule. They might be a little bit challenging, but it is doable. You have the resources with your high school counselors and the high school team and the college team. We're here to support. So if you have questions or you're not quite sure what to do next, please reach out. We're happy to help, get you where you need to go. And I will turn it back over to Stephanie or Artie, whoever is next.
Oops, sorry. Go back. Okay.
Excellent. I am going to share my screen, and that's going to stop yours. Well, excuse me, all of this information that's going to be available on the website later is really, really important. And there's three things I'd love for you to take away about the Ocean Research College Academy. Number one, this is a magnet program for Running Start students that allows them to get all of their core high school credits as well as the Associate of Arts and Sciences degree. So our students get the credit to graduate in both places. They do it with this STEM fast track. Research is inherent to what we do at Orca. It's interdisciplinary and it's collaborative. So it's a small program. It's very rigorous. Our students go both in-state and out-of-state. And by having the Associate of Arts and Sciences degree, the DTA, we found that those credits are received at all our, excuse me, border states. And ironically, Hawaii is a border state to Washington. So we also take students out, and they are the people that are in charge of the data stream. So we have our own research vessel. Stephanie's been out on it with us, and the students collect the data, begin to analyze it, interpret it, and they use their math to analyze their data. We have done a whole adaptation post-COVID to help students navigate math. And excuse me, we start with statistics. And I am always fascinated. So I named the program Orca 21 years ago because I was a huge fan of southern resident killer whales. These are not southern resident killer whales. This is right in front of our campus. That's Jetty Island in the background. If you've been to the Port of Everett and the Waterfront Center, this is right in front of the Weyerhaeuser building that's now the Muse Coffee Bar and Whiskey Bar. And these, excuse me, just like there are different races of people who live in different areas and speak different languages and eat different foods, there are different races of killer whales. And these killer whales eat seals. You can tell subtle differences, the shape of their dorsal fin, the shape of their saddle patch, and we track all the seals and sea lions that are in our region and see what's going on and how their populations change over time. But this is something I have never seen before. And I called one of the places on the river and said, hey, I'm Ardi Kveven, I run the Orca program. And the woman was like, do you know what we saw yesterday? And I'm like, killer whales. So there is a log skid up the river where harbor seals haul out. And we had been there the day before and counted over 50 harbor seals. We went the next day and there were not 50 harbor seals there. And if you want to study killer whales or if you want to study whales, you have to understand this place. And so we are the holders of longitudinal data in this location, both excuse me, in the river and in Mukilteo. And so we have these sensors that collect data every 15 minutes, 24/7, 365. And these two critical components that are shown here are temperature and dissolved oxygen, and how those change seasonally as well as spatially is just really, really important. This is a graphic that shows all the different things that we do from that boat, all of the sensors. And the first year, the students are very integral in doing what we call the state of possession sound research. And then the second year, they ask a question of their interest area and do a much deeper dive into that data stream. And so one of the things that has happened most recently, and this is also a fascinating, there is a group of local gray whales named the Sounders, and they started coming into the Everett area in the 1990s. And probably because they were at their carrying capacity and they were doing poorly up and down the coast, but they started detouring into Everett and they come in here to feed on the ghost shrimp. So we have started a program where we fly a drone when the tide is out. And these are the feeding pits that the gray whales make when the tide is in. And so they are in water that is as wide as they are deep. They are in less than, I saw one in 4.5 meters, so 12 to 13 feet. And they roll on their side and bulldoze the bottom, and they eat these ghost shrimp that are down in the mud flats. And they look like this. Both of these are pregnant, so super nutritious, a great food source. And this is also changing over time. We saw for the first time ever a gray whale in January, which we used to only see them in March, April, May. Then they headed back up to the Arctic, and now we are seeing them year round. And so our students are trying to figure out why that is. So my hope of you hearing tonight Obviously, if you have a STEM interest, Orca is a great opportunity for you. However, even if you don't have a STEM interest, but you want the associate's degree, one of my favorite students' stories was he's like, I went to UW Oceanography as an elective class, and I was in a class with 600 other people. At Orca, I was on a boat doing my own research. So he was a political science major, and it was just a really powerful way for him to learn. So we have an info session next week. And in addition to applying for the Everett Community College Running Start, you do have to come to EVCC in order to do ORCA. There is an online application for ORCA with 3 essays, a transcript, and a letter of recommendation from an instructor who knows you well. So I sped through that. I am stopping my share and turning off my audio.
All right, thank you so much, both Artie and Heather. That was super helpful. We get my slideshow going again. So we've covered a lot of this. So I'm not going to reread through all of this again. This slideshow will be posted on our website tomorrow, or within the next day or so that you guys can read through this. But these are just sort of big picture benefits and things to consider, some awesome things about the Running Start program, savings and money, getting that AA degree, the flexible schedule, being treated like an adult, all that good stuff. And we do have about 10 minutes or so left that we do have some questions here in the Q&A already. Mr. Alderson and I have answered a few of those via text. So make sure and pop over to the answered. If you think yours disappeared, it might be because we popped an answer in there for you. Mr. Alderson, is there something you'd like to say?
I just wanted, I think I pulled down this slides, Steph. So iPhone user, whoever you are, asked what the classes available are for summer. Anybody want to take that one, Heather?
So each quarter, the schedule does change. Our summer quarter is not out yet. Currently, you can view the spring quarter schedule to kind of see what classes are available. Summer will probably be up at the end of April, early May for you to be able to take a look at what classes are available for summer.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Another user asked if I'm trying to go to an outside state of college for engineering, who would be a good person to talk to for what classes to take that could help me? Miss Lewis.
Yeah, so you will actually also have, so I am your high school counselor. I advise you on what classes you need to take to graduate high school. At EVCC or any college you attend, you're going to have a college advisor. Those are going to be the people to talk to about that. So I know EVCC's got a great team of advisors. If you let them know, hey, I'm interested in engineering, they've got people there that can help guide you in that direction.
And Miss Lewis, can you take the next one from Eddie? Am I able to get an associate's degree if I do part-time in EVCC?
Yes, so part-time, remember, just means I'm doing a little of both or some of both. So I'm going to say it depends. If you're doing like 1, maybe 2 classes at Lake Stevens High School and then still taking 3 classes most quarters at EVCC, then you still probably can get an associate's degree. But Heather and Artie can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe you need 90 credits to get an associate's degree. So if you do the math on that, that's 45 credits a year. Think 3 quarters, 15 credits each quarter. That's pretty close to full time. So you do need to be spending the bulk of your time at EVCC to earn that associate's degree. Like I said, with the addition of those possible 10 extra credits that you could be available for with summer quarter, it does give you a little more wiggle room. But for the most part, you need to be pretty close to full time at EVCC if you want to knock out that full associate's degree.
Awesome.
Also consider college in the high school. If you are taking college in the high school classes, that does play in, or CTE, depending on your path, those could play into the associate's degree possibility.
Thank you so much. Somebody was asking if it was easier to take language classes at EVCC or at the high school. I think 2 important things here. Number 1, your language classes at EVCC are just going to be compressed. It'll be about that 10-week. Heather, Artie, give me the nod. 10 weeks. About
11
10
weeks.
weeks for the semester that you would spend here at high school. The second thing is that our college in the high school classes taught here at Lake Stevens High School, part of the interlocal agreement we have is that the classes here on high school are just as rigorous as and meet the same requirements and hold students to the same standards as at EVCC. So the content is the same, time frame is compressed. Somebody typed an answer to that. Assuming a junior gets accepted for another aisle, could someone do snow aisle and running start? Stephanie Lewis?
Yes, so I did figure out. So can you do snow aisle and running start? Technically, yes, you're allowed to do it. I will say snow aisle is a big chunk of time. It's a big block, 3 periods a day, where you're bused to the Mukilteo School District to do that. So I won't say that it's impossible, but I will say it's tricky. You would probably have to be able to find mostly online or evening classes to do your EVCC courses at. So definitely have a conversation with your individual counselor. That's a tricky one. So technically, yes, I will say that it's very rare and can be hard.
Thank you. And Lucia wants to know if where the forms are that we need to have signed. I'm assuming a running start EVF forms.
Yes, so you are gonna get all those forms available to you in an email. So you're gonna get an email from Running Start saying congratulations, you're accepted. You're gonna email your counselor and say, Miss Lewis, I got accepted. What do I do next? I'm gonna attach all of those to my email. We also have those forms. They're not on there right now, but we will have them on the Running Start webpage of our Lake Stevens High School Planning Guide as well. And like the RSEVF and stuff like that, you can get from EVCC as well. But I will always try to include those in my email communications to you so that you have them at your fingertips.
Awesome. Thank you. Alyssa wants to know if she can take classes online. Ardi.
Yes, you can. It's sometimes easier if you're hybridizing your college campus with your high school. So that is an option. Not all of our classes are offered online, but we do have a large offering. And I think I can do the next one too. Oh, shoot. I could do the math one and the Orca one too. Am I eligible for Running Start as a sophomore who is currently in geometry? Yes, what Dan and Stephanie were talking about. Math at your high school is free. You would need to take Algebra 2 trigonometry next. So you could do that at your sponsoring high school and do that for free. And then maybe pick up math the next year at Everett Community College. So, so you could do other classes, just not math at the college.
Awesome. And Ardi, an Orca student would have to complete the Running Start form, yes?
Yep. Yep. You are a Running Start student first and an Orca student second.
And Ms. Lewis, can you grab the next one? And can an online student enroll in Running Start? I'm assuming that person is talking about they're engaged in secondary distance learning through our district.
Yes, I definitely can. So yes, if you are part of our secondary distance learning program, you can do Running Start. I have students who are doing online classes with our secondary distance learning. Hang on, I'm gonna mute for a minute, friends.
That was the dulcet sounds of Mr. Pearson. We weren't lying. We actually do have another event tonight. Go ahead, Ms. Lewis.
You do. So yes, you definitely can. One little caveat I would like to add, already answered that question about can you take online classes at EVCC? They do have a wide catalog of online classes. I really encourage my first time Running Start students to be very thoughtful. I do not typically encourage students to take a full course load of online college level classes right out the gate. It's sort of that remember college classes are different type situation. An online class in and of itself is going to require a self-starter, someone that's good at learning by reading. And then also remember college level classes are going to be more work. They're full year classes crammed into a shorter period of time. So I do find that when students take a full course load of online classes their first quarter at EVCC, they get a little underwater and tend to feel overwhelmed. So please be communicating with your counselor. And I usually recommend take one online and a few on campus, test it out, make sure you're comfortable with that style of learning before you fully engage in that.
Okay. And Miss Lewis, we have just about 2 or 3 more minutes for you folks. I will stick around after Miss Lewis heads to her next event. You may not get as amazing answers because I'm not the expert like she is. Will Running Start prohibit someone from playing collegiate sports, Miss Lewis?
No, I just typed in a quick response to that. Nope, not at all. It definitely does not prevent you from playing collegiate sports.
And Gabriel wants to know if it would be better to take AP Calc BC at the high school where he has a full year, or at EVCC where he might get 1/3 to 2/3. He's planning to take most classes at LSHS.
It depends on what score you're going to get on the AP exam. If it's a college in the high school option that are often dual credit, you might be able to maximize that. And it depends if you have an awesome math teacher that you love and want to stay engaged in math at your school. If you're planning to stay mostly at LSHS, then do that. But the AP credit is solely based on the score you receive on that exam.
Awesome. Thank you. Diana wants to know if you can take Running Start if you have 23 credits as a junior and you're only missing your history requirement. That's a puzzler.
So the way to stay eligible for Running Start is you still have to have some high school requirement remaining. So at the start of the year in the fall, in order to maximize the best bang for your buck and get that full year of free Running Start, you want to have at least 1 credit that you still need towards graduation. And if that means you have 26 credits, but you don't have civics done, that one credit makes you eligible still. So I believe the answer to your question is yes, but I think the takeaway from the question is you actually want to enter each of your junior and senior year with a high school graduation requirement remaining. But that's just the start of the year. You don't have to have that for every quarter, just fall quarter.
Heather, are you able to help Heidi, who wants to know what classes you have for someone who might want to be a nurse?
Sure. So we actually do have a nursing program at EVCC. So we have the prerequisite classes such as, your basic English, math, history, science, chemistries. And then we also, once completing those, then you could also then participate or transition into the nursing program. It is a selective admission program, but we do have all of the classes that lead up to that point.
Thank you so much.
You have to graduate from high school, though, in order to apply for the nursing program.
Cade would like to know, are the GPA requirements different for other colleges for Running Start? Cade, are you asking if you have to maintain a 2.0 at other colleges as well? Maybe pop another Q&A down there on the bottom and we'll come back to you, bud. Heidi wants to know if internships are available.
I think it depends kind of on the program. Our Vice President of Instruction is working on some new career opportunities at Everett Community College. So I think depending on what you're looking for, we do have resources that could help you find internships, depending on the programs and areas that you're looking for.
Okay. I can answer Linnea's question. Are credits transferable if my student goes straight to a 4-year college after graduation? The answer is depends. If your student is going to a public university, 4-year university right after high school, then the answer is yes. 99% of the credits transfer straight over. The other part of it is if you're going to a private university, then some of the credits may not transfer as well. Liv wants to know if I'm a sophomore, can I pre-sign up for Running Start now for next year? Ardi, go ahead. I see you nodding.
Yes, you'll apply by, Heather is at April 30th, and filling in all the requisite information and getting all your paperwork done in the spring in order to start in the fall.
As long as you're a junior in the fall of 2025.
Correct.
Hopefully that clarifies.
Yeah.
And Lucia wants to know, would our Running Start schedule be in Skyward too? Lucia, the only thing that will show in Skyward for you is Running Start student. If you have classes on campus, then those classes would be in Skyward. Will doing running start prohibit me from playing collegiate sports? We already got that one. Would I be forced to do part-time since I have to take Algebra 2? Lewis?
So, I mean, yes, you'll be counted as a part-time student. But if you are taking one class, just Algebra 2 at Lake Stevens High School, even though you're coded as a part-time student, you can still take a full course load of classes at EVCC. You're still eligible for 18 credits if you take one class at the college. Full-time is 15 credits. So you're considered a part-time running start students, but you can still take a full course load of classes at EVCC. And I am going to go ahead and step out here, folks, because I need to be in an assembly and wave and say hi. Again, I am Miss Lewis. I am the counselor for SMJ through Z. Please email me if you have more questions. I'm going to get some links set up to schedule meetings soon. And please know all of your counselors are more than happy to answer follow-up questions you have as well. Thank you so much for having me. Ardi and Heather, thank you so much for being here. You all have a lovely evening.
Thanks, Stephanie.
So Ardi and Heather, we didn't talk about this earlier, so feel free to whatever. We still have a couple of questions in the Q&A. I'm happy to stick around. I don't need to go show my face. They'll put a picture of me and my bald head up on the screen. So I'm happy to stick around if I need to. If you have other plans tonight, feel free to pop out when you need to.
Stick around. I'll try my best.
Awesome. Let's power through.
Me too.
Melissa Perkins, is a recording of this so I can watch it. Yes, for 4 easy installments of 19. I'm just kidding. Tomorrow, sometime on the high school website, this recording, including that terrible joke, will be uploaded. Evelyn says, if I take college classes in the summer, what is the following high school year going to look like? Evelyn, that depends on your current, if you're a junior or a senior. I guess I don't understand the base of the question. Heather, can you help with that?
So typically, the RSCVF, which is required for each quarter, the high school counselor will take a look at what classes you plan on taking in the summer and how that impacts your fall schedule at the high school, because I believe you're currently are in this time frame of planning for next year already. Your schedule, is that right, Dan?
Yeah.
Like students are, so all that is kind of taken into consideration. So when you talk with your high school counselor, you'll want to make sure that, hey, I'm interested in summer, and that plan will then kind of be developed. I hope that helps answer that question.
And you can only take a maximum of 10 credits in the summer. So knowing that you need to get 90 credits at the end of your 2 years as a running start student, 10 is not going to make a huge dent, but it could be an interest area or something that gives you a little more flexibility during your academic year 2 to bolster your credits.
Awesome. And Ellery is asking, how many classes max can I take at the high school to still get my associate's degree as a sophomore? You don't get your associate's degree as a sophomore. If you're saying you're a sophomore now, how many classes max can you take at the high school? I would think you would be taking one class at the high school, and then the rest, it feels like, hold on.
At this time, if we could please get.
Okay. If you're asking how do you maximize the total number of credits you can have overall, kind of that part-time high school, part-time EVCC, I think the best thing you're going to do is you're going to do one class at the high school and then max out your running start. So that would be one class here and 3, and depending on the number of credits over there, possibly 4, but that would be weird. Heather, am I thinking of that correctly?
Yeah, you're thinking right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Let's mark that one. Cade, we got back to you. The GPA requirement's different to enter different for other colleges. Cade, can you do me a favor? Or Heather, do you have
I think what he's asking is if, for example, he were to go to Cascadia, would their GPA requirements for English 101 be different? So each college does have a placement requirement, but there are also so we have an alternative placement, so you don't actually have to do like a plus like a test. I don't know exactly what like another college's requirements would be, so you can definitely check it out, but they're probably going to be pretty close to one another as far as those standards or those placement requirements.
Awesome.
And just because if you don't have that 2.5 GPA or like a college level math placement doesn't mean that you will not be accepted to Running Start. That just means that you might need to maybe take an extra class or two at the high school to boost that, or take a placement test to show, hey, maybe that last math class wasn't the best, but I really am great at math, and here's my math placement. So that doesn't mean that you won't be accepted to Running Start. It's just a baseline to get you in the proper classes for college level courses. I hope that helps.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And Catherine wants to know if there are classes at EVCC that are geared towards law, or would an associate in law be a possibility?
We have about 4 law classes, an intro to law. Most of them lie in political science, which is one of the things you need to graduate from Lake Stevens, but you would not be able to get an associate's in law. You would need to head off to university, but you need to write well, critical think, philosophy, all of those things. We have a degree pathway plan that would outline the courses that would be beneficial for you transitioning to university.
Awesome. Thank you, Artie. Diana wants to know if they can speak to Miss Lewis in person during school, or do you need an appointment? Diana, you can go chat with your high school counselor at any time. Go ahead and sign up at the computer there. You can also send her an email, and she actually has on the bottom of her email signature a place to go ahead and schedule an appointment. It pops into her calendar, and you can book yourself there. Kendall wants to know, do we recommend Running Start to someone who knows what they want in their career to be, or is it okay if they're still figuring it out? This makes my heart happy. Would one of you like to grab that?
Both.
Yes, yes.
Yes. I think Running Start's a great way to figure out what you are interested in. And honestly, if you know what you want to do, you might get to college and be like, honestly, I want to do something else. I started as an accounting finance major. That's what I got my degree in. And I've been in higher ed since I've been, I think, 20 years old. So, you just never know what will happen when you get there. It's a great way to explore and see other interests.
Yeah. Savannah wants to know if they can apply for Running Start on the website. The answer is
Yes.
Yes.
that's where you
There's
start.
an online admissions application, which is a state application.
Awesome. Jamie wants to know if they have to stay in Running Start for both junior and senior year. The answer to that is no. You can flow in and out very easily at the summer. It is highly, highly, highly challenging to do so at a break in, like, say, from fall to winter quarter at EVCC, because you wouldn't have anything really to come back to here at the high school. So there's that. Jack wants to know if you're a student athlete, do they need to have any requirement to have classes at the high school campus? The answer to that, Jack, is no. You do not need to have Lake Stevens High School campus classes. By being in Running Start, you are still a Lake Stevens High School student and have access to all of our ancillary services, which include sports. You do still have to keep your grades up and pass all of the academic requirements, just like anybody who's on campus would have to do. Aiden wants to know if I would be forced to take another language class since the German teacher at EVCC retired.
You could finish German at Lake Stevens and then take your other courses as a Running Start student if you want to continue. We would never force you. So if you're really connected to German, typically you need 2 years of the same foreign language. So if you were to restart, you would want 2 years of that new foreign language. And if you're going to a California school, they sometimes recommend taking 3 years. So it would be up to you to talk about it with your high school counselor.
Thank you. Just a couple more questions and then we're off. Lucia wants to know, can I take classes that wouldn't give high school credits, something that's more career focused, only has math and history, that they need high school credit wise? If I'm reading the question correctly, The answer is yes. You can take things that don't specifically fit into the high school credit buckets, um, uh, just as long as you have high school uh, components left for your degree. Does that make sense? Did I say that right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, you could take welding, you could take fire science, you could take the nursing prep. So you could take cosmetology.
We
You could do a whole bunch of different electives, keeping that history and English for the end.
I would advise to take your high school graduation requirements like fall quarter. So make sure that you have all of your graduation requirements complete. And then students start dabbling, winter, spring quarter in things that they're interested in, or they might start like cosmetology because they have their high school graduation requirements complete.
Awesome. Heidi wants to know if I take part-time during my junior year and full-time during my senior year, how many years left of college will I need to graduate as a nurse? It's a very specific question, Heidi. Awesome.
Um, we are not advisors. So in the higher ed world, we have to be very careful with advising. So we have college advisors that could help you walk through some of that as well. It all is going to depend on how many college credits you earn while you're in high school, and then if there's prerequisites for nursing classes. So there's not like a set, like we can't say it's going to be this number. It's going to take some looking with an advisor, and maybe start with your high school counselor and then kind of go from there. I think is the best possible option.
Thank you.
And we have info sessions for the nursing program almost monthly. So you could go to an info session and find out more.
Awesome. And Ryan wants to know if he can do 3 college classes and 2 high school classes during their senior year, and also how many college credits is the typical 3 college classes. So, Ryan, you can do 3 college classes, but by the way the state funding model is, that would typically only allow you to do 1 high school class, and 3 college classes would likely be 15 credits total. Okay. And DeLeon wants to know if you get your AA, do you have to choose your major when you start college?
Typically, your state schools are going to take up to 135 credits, but you were right. They are going to want you to declare a major your second quarter at the institution, but it typically takes a quarter for your degree to activate once you've enrolled. And then, so you've got a grace period, and like Heather identified earlier, and I did as well, you can change your major.
All right, folks, that is all the questions we have in the Q&A. We still have some folks in the party here, and we are done. I want to thank you so much, Heather and Ardi, for sticking around, for making yourselves available, and for sharing your expertise. And we just really, really appreciate the partnership. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be stopping the recording here in a second. Again, this will be posted on our website in the next day or so. Thank you again for joining us tonight. And we're super grateful for your partnership, Ardi and Heather. Thank you so much. I'm going to go
Right
ahead.
back at you, Dan. Thank you.